Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and we're good to go. So we will welcome to the Takeover, guys. Welcome back to the Takeover. Welcome back, guys. Well, here we are. We are here, another week passed, and thank you everybody who's been listening and subscribing and leaving those 5-star reviews. Those help a lot. And subscribing on YouTube, we appreciate that. And when I say we, me and anybody who's affiliated with the podcast, that helps out. So I appreciate that. Okay, so here we go. Most of you guys who follow me are already aware. So, if you don't, I don't know how this episode will go because I have to put out, I have to do this for myself. I have to put out an episode. I don't want to go a week without an episode of the Takeover. So I'm doing an episode. I don't know how this episode will go. I don't, if you don't want to, I don't want to put anyone in a bad mood or make anyone feel upset. So I would think that if you, I would say skip this episode if you don't want to be sad, because I'll probably get a little bit emotional for this episode. I'll try not to. I'll try to be fun and positive. But I obviously I put my dog down yesterday morning, and it's definitely probably for me one of the hardest things I've had to do in my life. So I guess I'll talk about that for a little bit. And I don't know. Again, I don't know where this episode will go. I just know that I have to put out an episode. And, part of grieving is, you do it on your own time. And however, people do it in so many different ways. And some people like to push through and get back to work. And, we're in a time where you can't really get back to work. Some of us aren't working. So this is my way of getting back to work. And it's not that I've repressed the feelings, or I've definitely mourned and I'm upset. And, but I also feel like I should, live a little bit too. I don't think you should just sit inside all day, and I've gone on walks and I've hung out with people, and I've had a lot of cookies. I've had a lot of support, and I appreciate all of that. I mean, I think that makes it the easiest is having a lot of friends and family. You really appreciate the support. It really does make it easier. And I've never really gone. I mean, the last time I went through anything rough was probably losing my grandparents. But again, there's a little part of it is like they're a couple of them were in their 90s. It's like they had a good life, and you're not as close with them. It's just really weird how people, I guess, the response I've gotten is incredible. I think people just really connect to animals, I guess, in general. I don't want to just say dogs, because cats too, but it's helped a lot for sure. I definitely think that's important. And I think for anyone out there who's ever going through anything similar to this, is to don't, push that away and embrace that, because that's life, man. Having that support and having those people there for you, it makes it easier, and then it makes you appreciate, everybody really is kind out there. Everybody at the end of the day is really a good person. And there's a lot of evil in this world, and there's a lot of arguments, and there's a lot of disagreements and tempers and people disagreeing with each other. But at the end of the day, everyone's pretty nice. Everyone's a nice person at the end of the day. At the core, they're all nice people. Even the people you hate or you don't get along with, they're even them. They might be nice. I think that's something my mom said to me in the past couple of days. She goes, everybody's actually really nice. So I think that was important. And this is rock bottom, guys. This is it. I think from my perspective of all of this and what I've experienced in life, I'm only 35, but and that's nothing. But the older you get, you realize how much more respect you have for elderly people or older people, because you realize that life experience is priceless. and they've learned so much, and you learn from every experience, and you grow, and you only become a better person from each experience, whether it's negative or positive. And in my life experience, I think it's, you know, I'm fortunate. I've had a great life. I've had a great life that this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And not to take away from it not being really hard for people, but I think everyone has multiple rock bottoms in their life. And for me, this is my second rock bottom. We're in the quarantine. I lost my dog, and I'm not working, and and the bright picture of this is like I can look at like that's it's not that bad for this being my rock bottom. But we all have rock bottoms, and I know there's people that have horrible lives out there, and you're like they're rock bottoms every day. But there is a point where it's rock bottom, and you got to look at it in a positive way and be like, listen, you know what? Every day after today will only get better. It will hurt. You might go through pain. It's like I woke up and there's you never stop crying. It's rough, man. It just comes in spurts. You go outside, you're reminded of things, and it's hard, but you get better. Everything will get better. So, and I feel weird putting something out there where I'm getting emotional, but I just want to, I want, never know. I don't know. Maybe other people have gone through this, and if it helps someone, then it's worth it. But I just want everyone to know that when you hit that rock bottom, it's only gonna get better. But it's definitely tough. And I got his paw prints the night before. We there was just paint outside, and I guess the idea crossed my mind at one point or another. But I dipped his left paw, in the paint, and then I stamped his foot on a bunch of sheets of paper. I have like 3 of these framed. I don't know what I'll do with them, but it's like my way of mourning. When you take your dog in, there's options to they'll like maybe give you his ashes, or they'll do some other stuff. But I just that wasn't for me. I'm not like, I don't want to hold his ashes. I have an Instagram account of his, and I have so many pictures, and I have the memories. He was a great dog. I got him when I was a senior in college in FSU, which is in Tallahassee, Florida. I got him as an irresponsible thing. And when it's funny, I feel like a lot of people have done this before, but when you get a dog, it's an impulse decision when you're not when you're not successful, or you're stupid. You know what I mean? Like anyone who's smart gets a dog when they have a good career, a house, a family. Like, all those people did it the right way. And then you have a bunch of impulsive people who have gotten dogs in college, and you know them. One of your friends has it. Maybe it's you're the person, or you have a friend in college or a buddy. But everyone's done one of those things where they get a dog, and they probably shouldn't have. But I was one of those guys. I have had a dog my whole life. I mean, there was maybe a year or two I didn't in college, but I had my childhood dog that passed away. We went over it. I've talked about it, but I got Wade, and when you get a dog, you don't think about like how this is the next 10 to 15 years. You don't think about that, and you surely don't think about the ending. It's they live such a short life when you think about it, and that's the hardest part, man. Is I don't know if anyone has had to put a dog or a cat down, but there's different ways to do it. But when when you sit through that, I wanted to live it. I wanted to live through it, and I wanted to be there. And it was tough. It was definitely the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Um, and it's weird because like I have all these memories of him, but all I'm doing is replaying the last 48 hours. That's all I'm doing. And I know that over time that will go away, and I'll always remember those last 48 hours, but I'll think more about the all the other fun memories I have with him, but those last 48 hours were tough, and I just keep replaying them. I even today I went outside and I was in the front lawn of my house. Like there's a little patch of grass after the sidewalk, and he would always go to the bathroom, and I took a picture of his shit. That was like, this is all I have left of him. This came from his body. This piece of fucking shit was just there, and it was gray by now. 'Cause shit, as it gets older, it's gray. But I fucking took a picture of his shit, and I was like, well, this is all I have left of him. So don't listen to this episode if you don't want to be sad. But I had before Monday, on Saturday and Sunday I was prepping for this episode because after last week I liked what I was doing. It wasn't perfect. I'm learning how to edit and do things. I tried the things with who was it? With the argument with my roommates and Ryan Gosling calling in love, and I have other celebrities I wanted to do. I have all this production. I want to do more of a production for the YouTube listeners, and because I think it'd be fun to watch some of the edits I did. But obviously this is just I obviously didn't have the energy or time to prep and do all that before putting this episode out because I wanted this to come out on Wednesday. So I decided to just do this episode, and obviously I'm not gonna shy away from what happened, and I think I'll talk about it. And so I just want to share this, and again, I'm sorry if some of you listen to these podcasts because you're stuck in quarantine or you're bored and you want to laugh or be entertained. So I know we're only like 10 minutes in, but I would say get out now if you don't want to be sad, because I don't know what else to talk about right now. This is what I'll talk about. So I got his pause, and I taking him in, it was I didn't, it just happened so fast. I didn't know it was gonna happen. I guess I knew he was sick. I had mentioned it, I think maybe a few weeks ago on the podcast. I go, he's sick, but like in my head I'm like, it's not gonna happen. He's fine. And looking back now, he was slowing down, and you don't notice because it's every day you're with him. You don't see him slow down. But when I was going back looking at his videos and stuff, I was like, man, from that month to this month, he's really slowed down, and he was done. He wasn't happy. Those last 48 hours, he was ready to go, and I think that's the hardest decision. At first, I wasn't sure, but then you just know it's time, and took him in. And I remember I was calling my mom, and I was like upset, and I was crying, and then my dad came on, and we always joked around that he had my dad would cry more when our other dogs died, more than when his parents died. It was really funny. We would just always like kind of laugh about that, like how people are way more emotional with their pets than sometimes even their loved ones. And that's just how it is. It's just how connected you are with them, because they're so innocent. They just love you. That's all they do. They don't argue with you. They don't disagree. They don't, they're not mean. They're never mean. They're just happy. They're happy, loving animals that are annoying sometimes. And sometimes they annoy you. And I'll tell you what, man, when you do pass away, you think about all the times that they annoyed you and you wish that you hugged them instead. I don't regret anything. He had a great life, but everybody has those moments where you're like, stop, you're annoying me with your dog, especially Wade. He was so fucking annoying. That guy was just so high maintenance. He was always up in your shit. You couldn't eat alone. He tried to fucking steal your food every time. He was better when he was like a 3 to 7, 8. And then the last few years as he got older, he was just like, I don't give a fuck. I'll eat your food. If you walk away, I'm going to eat your food. Hit me afterwards. I don't care. Put me in the cage. He would literally eat my food and then go. I used to have the cage open. He liked to lay in his cage. And he would go to the cage and like close the door by himself and be like, I get it. I'm going to be stuck in here for an hour. This is my punishment. I don't know. But he was in the end, man. That shit was. I was talking to my parents in the car. I was like, I gotta do it. I hadn't brought him in yet. He was just in the back seat, and I had drove him there. And he, the place called me, and they're like, we'll bring you in. It's quarantine time, so they had to give me like this plastic outfit to put on and bring me in through a side door because no one's allowed in the hospital except for when you're putting him down. And my dad's on the phone and he's just like, it's going to be tough and it doesn't get easy and it's going to be rough for a while. And he was just kind of like talking to me. I guess, I guess this is the first time really they've had to emotionally like be there for me in a situation like this. Like I've gone through breakups and been upset, but I kind of dealt with that with friends and stuff. But this is one where I really called him, and my dad's on the phone and he's talking, and I guess my mom's chiming in behind him or whatever, and he's like, "Shut up, Colette, shut up. What he knows, whatever." And he's like, yells at her. He's like, you disagree with her and she's just nagging at you. And that was a funny moment. We were laughing. I was just laughing at him because she was annoying him because, it's all an experience for all of us, my mom, my dad, because they were upset too. I think they were upset because of how upset I was. And, you hate to see your loved ones upset. But, I mean, there was a few laughs there when he was getting upset that she was, like, saying some shit in the background. And he was upset. I don't know if anyone cares about this, but I know I've done a couple posts. And I'll get over it. But in the meantime, I guess I'll just share this. And, man, I was in there and he was a really good dog. I mean, I've met a lot of dogs. I've met all the dogs. And they're all great for the most part. But even like this Noelle dog, she was a bitch. She was fine. Wade was just very loving. But man, I when you go in and for the process they did with me is they took they came in when I pulled up my Jeep in the front, he was in the back seat, and I called him. I was like, "Hey, I came back with Wade," because I was there all night the night before I was there. Because he was coughing and he wasn't breathing right, and so I went in and they had to remove fluid from his lungs. He had a lot of fluid in his lungs, which they assume is cancer related. I never paid to get all the tests done. They said he probably has cancer, but there was no point of testing him because more money I would have had to spend, and I wasn't gonna treat the cancer. Like that was it. We were just gonna give him his best life, and we decided that 6 months ago when he had his toe removed. They said there was cancer in that, and it could have spread. They said we're not sure, but if it did, he could have 6 months to a year live. And now it was 6 months later, so he started having complications. So we gave him a good life and loved him, and I gave him a lot of human food there in the end. And so I brought him in, and this girl comes out and she carries him, and I didn't know that, I didn't know how it would go down. I just knew that the doctor was going to call me. It was a new doctor on a new shift when I came back. So I had to tell her, I was like, I know what we have to do. It's time. And she was like, yeah, I think that's the right decision. And because the doctors will never tell you what to do. Because yesterday when I got there and he got his fluid removed, she was like, it's just not good. And, it's going to be a tough decision. I was like, can you tell me what I'm supposed to do? And she's like, I can't tell you. I just know that, whatever decision you make, it's not the wrong decision. Okay, that's fine. But, but I was just like, okay, but like, what would you do? You know what I mean? Like, what's can he come home? And she was saying she wouldn't let him come home unless she removed the fluid. So I had to pay for a procedure just to have him come home for that last 12 hours. And even when he was home for those 12 hours, it seemed like he was out of it. I got him to like kiss me like once, but he wouldn't even eat human food at that point. He was pretty like, it's hard because his brain, is like happy and active, but his body was just like he would look at me like, why is this happening? They don't comprehend that. That's what's rough. Like at least a human is dying and they know they're dying. They know what it is. The dog, they don't know. So I took him in and they brought me in and they said they sedated him a little bit, and they brought him in. They said you have as much time as you want to spend with him in this little room, and when you're ready the doctor will come in or you'll get the doctor. I didn't know I was supposed to get the doctor. They brought the Wade in and he was sedated. At this point he's pretty drugged up. I felt like I didn't even know if he knew I was with him. I just knew I was petting him, and his eyes were like, you could tell he was fucked up. And I was in there for like a half hour, and I was just sitting there with him. I didn't, know if the doctor was coming, and then someone was like, hey, we just want to check on you, I was like, I didn't know if the doctor was coming. She's like, no, just let us know when you're ready. And I was like, oh, I was like, okay, you can tell her to come in. So I just, I had spent time with him. And we were on the floor, and then I put the table down, and I picked him up and put him up there. And, he was just drugged up at that point. I got more from being home with him the last day. And so the doctor comes in, and she has like the fluids that she's gonna inject because he already has an IV in him. So they just have the IV laying there with him when you're petting him and saying goodbye, and they're just gonna connect how the fluid that stops his heart. And she's like, I'm gonna start injecting him, and then it will be painless. He'll just fall asleep. And um, I'm holding his head. And when you hold your dog's head, even when they're tired or sick, or even after surgery, he's had surgery before, they're like a little, it's like they're drunk, but they're still like hard, like they're still muscles and stuff. But I'm holding his head, and I see the fluid going in, and I see his stomach moving, and I wanted to feel his heart, and I could feel it. And then it goes in, and she's like, let me feel for a heartbeat. And then she is listening, and then she's like, she's like, he's gone. He passed away. And his head was so loose. It was like a loose tooth. Like, it's. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like. It was like he was so like. His head was just like so loose. It was like crazy. I was like, exactly what you expect with a dead animal, but I've never really held a dead animal in my hands. So. And his eyes, there was like a gray gloss that went over him. That shit was so interesting to me, bro, because like even before when he was drugged up, they're brown and they're shiny, but once he was gone, his eyes, like, they didn't lose color. Like, the color of the eye wasn't gray. It just seemed like there was a gray cloud that went over him. Like a soul left his body. And I don't believe in anything. I don't believe in religion, and I don't know what happens. And I think there's energy. I believe in energy because I know there's energy because you feel energy from doing stand up. Some nights are not a good night of stand up because whatever, there's just a weird energy in the room. And, even when you walk in rooms and there's someone you don't like in a party, there's just energy's a real thing. You can't argue about energy. But so maybe the energy from his body left. Something was weird for me to see that. Like the way you just saw a gray. It was just like you saw the life leave his body. And then I started breaking down, and she goes, take as long as you want, and she left. And I'm laying there, and I'm just holding him and petting him and kissing him. And then I don't know, I've some people just leave right away, and I was in there for like 20 minutes just holding his dead body, and he's still warm. It was just so weird, and holding his paws. And I'm like, am I weird? I don't know. I'm like, I pick up his head, and I'm just like, it's so loose, and I'm like looking at him, and I'm like, just looking at his dead face. And then I don't know why I like opened his like mouth. I was like, oh, and I wanted to see his mouth, and his tongue falls out. And now I'm like, well, fuck, his tongue fell out, and the doctor's gonna come back and think I'm fucking weird playing with his head. So now I have to open his mouth, and I'm pushing his tongue back in his mouth because I'm like, this doctor's gonna think I'm some fucking weirdo playing with his head, and I'm like panicking now, trying to fix his fucking face as his tongue's hanging out. So I put his tongue back in, and I like kind of close his mouth, but it doesn't close all the way, and I put his head down. I'm like, fuck, this doctor's gonna think I'm some weird serial killer. I don't know. I was just doing that. And I fucking took his tail and I put it up because that's how I remembered him. His tail always up, but when he was sick, it was down. And then I left, and then I said to them, I was like, I'm ready to go, and I left his body there, and then that was it. But that shit replays in my head over and over and over. And again, I'm sorry if I'm like really upsetting you guys, but I had to put something out. I mean, I don't know if this is embarrassing or whatever, but this is what people go through every day. Every day somebody's losing a dog or a loved one, you know? And to think about the people going through this coronavirus that have lost loved ones in retirement homes and they can't be with anyone. Like my buddy Zach, his grandpa died in New York. His mom lives in Arizona. She couldn't say goodbye to him. And you just think about life. I think that sometimes if you've had such a good life, you don't appreciate other people's feelings and how much love they have and your friendships because you haven't had something taken away from you. And I think every once in a while, that's life, is to have these things taken away from you so that you grow and you learn and you appreciate who you are as a person and who other people are. If you've never had anything taken from you, you take everything for granted. And I think it's important to live through these moments and you know, I had Wade for almost 13 and a half years, and you know, we had so many, you know, he had a good life. He didn't have the best one. He could have been with a family with a huge backyard, but he doesn't know that world exists. That's how I look at it. He doesn't know that there's dogs that live in mansions. So he thinks every dog has roommates. So, but you know, it was a big life lesson for me, and I think it was important for me to experience, and I wanted to be there. I know that some people don't want to be there for when they put the dog down, but I'm glad I did. I mean, it's not haunting that I'm reliving it. It's just I don't know. I'm just like thinking about how I said goodbye to him, and you know, I'm not thinking about the other memories right now, but there's so many. And you know, we're only a day removed. It was yesterday at like 10:50 a.m. I think he died at like 10:50 a.m. And you know, I really did. I had such a big production for this week. I was gonna have Al Pacino give us relationship advice, and I had some motivational videos that I was gonna share that I liked for this quarantine time. You know, I promise you it was gonna be a fun episode, but you know, Wade did this. You know, damn you, Wade, for fucking making this week a fucking sad episode. I know Craig was here earlier, and I was with my roommate, and I was like, I got to do a podcast, but he was like, well, I don't want to be here for that. He knew it would be sad, but I just, you know, if I had a 9 to 5 job, I would go back to work, and I would be sad at work, but I think you should stay busy, but I don't think you should ignore something when it's happening. I think you should embrace it, and it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to cry, and it's okay to, you know, express your feelings when something traumatic happens. And you know, every moment, you know, I laid in his bed earlier. I still have his blanket, and I slept with it last night because it has a little bit of his scent. And there's only so long I can do that for, right, before I have to eventually wash it. I mean, I could keep laying with it. It's not like it gets dirty or something. There's so many other things like that just stop in life, like talking to, like, I was, you know, I was kind of texting with some different girls I was texting with, or like on dating apps talking with. Like, I just went cold on them. Like, what am I supposed to say? Like, hey, sorry, I put my dog down. I'll get back to you next week. It was just like, what's the point? And then like, so like all these girls are gonna think I've ghosted them. That's how I'm gonna think from now on. Every time a girl ghosts me, I'm gonna assume her dog died. The amount of people that reach out was really nice. People sent me cookies, food. People I haven't talked to in 6 months. People were really connected to it. So I think that was really sweet, and I appreciate that. But All right. I was going to talk about the draft. I know some people don't care about that, but that was cool. I mean, even I think there were a lot of eyes on the NFL draft, even though, people don't even watch football. It was the only thing to watch, You get to see people in homes living their dreams. That's always sweet. I mean, this is all stuff I wanted. Like, there's some stuff I was going to do on my next episode, but I can't do it because of Wade's episode. And then there's some stuff I can't talk about because I by next week it's gonna be old news, like the draft and whatever fucking other notes I wrote down. I don't have any other notes now. I'm just kind of riffing right now because I wanted to put out an episode for you guys, and I know it's gonna be a sad episode, but I figured most of you knew anyways. If you're a fan and you're listening to this podcast, you obviously follow me on Instagram, I would assume, or on YouTube or whatever. So, I still look like shit. This is the longest beard I've ever had, and I think that we can still carry on and look like shit. I know that last week I said we have a bright. We could see the light at the end of the tunnel, so we could maybe clean it up a little bit or dress it up a little bit. But I don't know. I haven't even watched the news for a couple weeks. I don't know what's going on. It's fucking rough, but it's gonna be weird for me, man. I've never lived my life without the responsibility of having to go home. Even in LA, like I'll go do a show or I go out to dinner or go out to a bar. You're always conscious of the, like, oh, I got to go home and walk my dog. I got to make sure I go home and walk my dog. Like, that is something I've lived with that's like a habit I've lived with for fucking ever, for 13 years. I've lived with I got to make sure that's okay. Oh, I'm on the road. My roommate's watching the dog. Everything okay? I got to make sure that's okay. I don't even know how to live without that. Like, to think of, like, oh, and like going on walks, like sometimes you resented going on a walk. You're like, oh, I gotta walk my dog. How many times have you heard that? I gotta walk my dog. And then here I am, like, going, like, outside just walking, and you get sad walking because you're like, you can see why people get dogs immediately after their dog dies. I understand. I was giving my sister some shit. She put her dog down about a year ago, and then they got a dog maybe like 3 months later. But I mean, she has 2 kids. There's a house, a backyard. I mean, I guess it's different. But I definitely, I'm not going to get another dog for a long time. I would never say never, but I just have to, to me, I don't want to. If I get another dog, I want to give him the best life, and I want him to have his own backyard, maybe a pool, and maybe a family, maybe my kids. Like, I travel so much, I don't think it's fair now. But that is one thing that will be an adjustment, is like, part of me sometimes I would be on the road for like a week. Sometimes a week would be the longest, and then I would feel bad because I was like, I can't make my roommate watch my dog for that long because he has his own dog. So I would do that. But it'd be weird to think like I could just leave and not come back for weeks at a time. So that's an adjustment. There's so many little things. I mean, I cleaned up most of the stuff. I threw away all the medications. He had so many medications over the last 2 years. That's really what you don't realize. And I think that's with everything. Like, if you're in a relationship or in stand-up, you don't notice your friends getting better at stand-up because you see them every day. So you're not like, you don't see the growth. Or in a relationship, or you don't see if someone's gaining weight. You don't see someone gain weight or lose weight. All of a sudden you see someone, you're like, yo, you lost a lot of weight because you hadn't seen them every day. I think that's how it is with your dog. You don't see him dying. You think, he had a problem. But he's been walking slow for a while. This is how it is. You don't see it happen. And then after he's gone, you look back and you're like, wow, he held on for a long time. People send messages. They're like, he held on, he held on for you. That's what they say. What do they really, I don't, what's the truth? At the end of the day, dogs don't know a lot. They're not the brightest animals. Everyone sends this thing too. The vets send it. They'll send like the Rainbow Bridge. If you know what I'm talking about, there's a little poem. A bunch of people had sent it to me, and it's heartwarming, but like, that stuff doesn't work on me. It's just one of those. They do it for when someone dies too. You'll get, like, someone will send you these poems, and they're meaningful, and they're out of, people mean well out of them, but like it's just like, they're all in this special place where they're running around all happy, and you're like, I guess if that puts you at peace. I don't think there's somewhere where all these dead dogs are running around happy in a field waiting for you, and that when you join, you're gonna walk each other over this rainbow bridge. I don't know what happens. I think that we die and our energy goes somewhere, and who all these different things have energy, and you hope that, I don't know what you hope for. I don't know if anything happens, guys. I don't know what happens. You miss things and then you die. But I didn't hold on to a lot of things. I took his bone. I have his toys are still there for my other roommate's dog, but I still have his bed because the other dog can use it. But I don't know. I don't know what really else to say other than that. It's if you've never had a dog, I think that I think everyone should experience a dog or some sort of pet. You really start to appreciate things when you don't have them anymore. You've heard that saying your whole life. To me, it's the same. It's a very similar feeling to a breakup. I've had my heart broken a couple times, and although that's not as bad as losing the dog, it was it's a similar feeling of like feeling crushed, and knowing there's similar things of like knowing you're never going to have those special moments again. Like when you go through a breakup, you go through, like when I went through a breakup, I was sad because you were like thinking about those moments when you would lay in bed together or laugh together, or like sometimes I would think about them living a life with someone else happy. That was like so bad. I would do that. And the only problem is your fucking ex-girlfriend doesn't die after 13 years. She lives on. So you gotta live with them moving on and loving someone else. I think that's refreshing, I guess. It would be horrible if your dog didn't die after 13 years. At 13 years he was just like, okay, I'm gonna go love a new owner. I think that would be harder, and you would watch them on Instagram and be like, he's fucking playing catch with him, huh? What a fucking asshole. But it was similar, and I think since when I went through a breakup in college with I got Wade with a girlfriend when I was in college, a senior, and that breakup was hard for me. I remember laying in bed crying and feeling crushed, and I had Wade there, but this was that same feeling of like you'll be fine, and then you'll have pockets of crying, like something will come up and you'll be reminded. It's for me, it's not even been fucking 2 days, but I can't imagine. It's probably going to be a rough week or so, but um it's fucking something else, man, living through that whole fucking moment. It's fucking life changing. But I think everybody should have an experience. I mean, maybe you can't. Maybe you live in an apartment in a city and it wouldn't be fair. But a cat or a dog, I mean, there's so much love to be. There's so much love out there to have. And if you can recognize that, it's something special that you'll appreciate. And I think going forward, he did that for me. It was like he loved everyone. I mean, everyone. I mean, he was such an unloyal dog. Like, if anyone who come in, he was like, oh, I like them, they're my best friend. A new person comes in, I used to do the joke, like if an intruder broke in my house and was like, hey, I'm here to kill someone, he'd be like, oh, let me show you where he sleeps. That's what he would do. He loves so much. And I posted it on Instagram, but someone had shared with me, like, the dogs come into your life for a reason, and it's to either heal you or teach you or love you unconditionally. And whatever you have going on in your life, it fits. If some people get dogs when they lose someone, if I got a dog tomorrow, it would be to heal me. And that would be what that dog's purpose was. And, and sometimes people just have it they want a companion, and that's for them to love them unconditionally. And I really believe that he was teaching me. He was showing me how I was shut off so many times. Even him, I was like, leave me alone. Like, I don't care. Like, I'd be playing video games and he would come up and bother us, and I'd be like, go away. Or you'd be eating and he'd be like, let me get food. And he'd be like, get away, Wade, stop. Or, you know, so many little times like that, you're like, leave us alone. And all he was doing was like, hey, I love you. And just, I want you to know I always love you. And I think that it's important to know that everybody has that. Even the people you argue with, you hate, and the people that upset you. Everybody at the end of the day just has love, and I should be more open to that, and I will see that, and I will know that in the future, and I will know that going forward, and into relationships and with my friends and family. And you know, if I one day have another dog, I will know how to even love that dog even more because of Wade. And you know, I think, you know, being open about it and expressing it, I think sometimes you forget how you could change another person's life if you just express how much they mean to you, or how they make you feel. And we don't do that because we're like, oh, it doesn't matter, they don't need that. And you forget like how much that means to them. And I posted that basically what I was just saying now on Instagram. And I remember my mom called me today and she's like, that was really sweet, but you know what you should do is you do that to me. Give me more love. Give me more love, because then I'll be saying it about her when she dies. I'll be like, I should have loved her more. But it's different with humans, you know. Humans, we all hate each other. We fucking argue and we don't appreciate them, but we do. We do. We love our mom, we love our dad, and we love our siblings and our friends and family. But humans, we have, there's a negative part to us too. We're not all lovey-dovey. So I don't know. I think we can learn from that, and that's what I learned, and I think sharing that with you guys, you know, maybe that's something for you to think about, you know, with you in your life. I don't know what's going on in your life, but you know, I remember I have a comedian friend, and he didn't have a good relationship with his mom or dad, but after they died, I remember he was just like, I wish I reconciled with them. I wish I did. And I've always had a good relationship with my parents, but I know some people out there don't. Whether they don't have a good relationship with one of their siblings or their parents, and it's like, it's minimal shit. Like I have a buddy. I just think it's stupid. Like, some of my college friends back home, my buddy Mike Levitt, he actually does my merchandise for me in South Florida. MRL Promotions is his company. If you are looking for promotional items and stuff, check out his website. But he's one of my best friends, and you know, these are all my college best friends that I met in college. And there was a guy, there's him and my buddy Ryan and Scott Levine, Ryan Wolf, Mike Levitt, and then there was this kid Teague and Danny Bachar, all my FSU fraternity group of friends. And then there's this kid Eddie Lanza, and everybody was friends. And then some years ago they had a bachelor party, and this kid Eddie Lanza was a little dramatic, I guess. You know, he was a little bit of a brat, and they got in a fight, and he left the bachelor party. I don't know what happened. They don't really go into details, but at the wedding, he was still at the wedding, I remember, I think. But after the wedding, they all had a falling out because of just like petty shit. Really petty shit. And I always would try to be like, why don't you guys talk again? And they were always like, no, fuck it. No, fuck him, fuck it. Like, he that's just how he is. People are so stubborn. And I wish that they would fucking, they're not going to hear this. Friends don't listen to podcasts, but I wish they would hear this episode and know that that shit doesn't matter. No matter what you think, like, at the end of the day, he's not a bad guy. He has a heart, and he's a good guy, and so are you. And you guys are fighting over something so small that won't matter if, God forbid, one of you guys were dead and you lost and they weren't there anymore. You'll live with that regret. You'll live with that regret for the rest of your life. Like, I don't have anything to regret with Wade, but I still live with the thought of being like, I could have done this. I could have done this. Like, there were the last 2 years I was planning a trip to go up to Big Bear when it snowed. Wade had never seen snow. I wanted him to like play in the snow, and I never got to do it. And I have to live with the fact that I could have taken the time out to just be like, let's do this. Let's just do this right now, and had that moment of that and that experience. And I didn't do it because things that I thought were more important came up. Like, oh, I don't want to drive there. I got this show and this show, and at the end of the day, the stand up doesn't matter. It's like I do it, but like the things that I cared about with stand up and in my career and trying to make it and wanting to be famous and big, like that doesn't matter, because when it's gone, when someone dies, it's gone. It's not even important. It's like those moments you have with your friends or your family or your loved ones, like those little moments are what you look back on and you're like, that was fun. Not the fucking phone call you're waiting for, the email, but like if I would have had the memory of him seeing the snow, that would have been more important than anything else that was going on for whatever reason that I couldn't take him, because I was chasing money, because I had to go do something for money or something. And that goes with like life lessons of like, it made me realize, it was like, why would I ever, hold a grudge or be upset at someone when I could put that aside and then go enjoy my time with them. I think that makes sense. Sometimes I don't know a lot of words and I don't know how to articulate what I'm really trying to say, but I hope that resonated with some of you. And if you take anything from this episode, it's fucking, rekindle a relationship you have with someone that you feel like you had a falling out with. It's like, do that. If not for yourself, do it for Wade. Do it for Wade. Fucking forgive someone or do something with someone you love that that you were holding on to or pushing back because you were like, I can't do this, I don't have time, and just do that thing, because that memory will hold more weight than anything in the world. And you don't want to have the regret of being like, I wish I would have said I love you one more time, or I wish I would have taken you to a snow cabin, or I wish I didn't fight with you from a stupid bachelor party, and I had a drink with you one more time, because we had so many memories from college. And I think about my college buddies like that, and they had the falling out, which isn't worth it for what. I don't know, I don't know if what I'm saying helps or not, but I don't know. I just want to have a fun time now. All right, let's have a good time. And I know that life's hard right now, and a lot of people are not working, and you don't know when you're going to be able to get back to normal, and some of us can't cut our hair or shave our beards, but this is a fucking great time to just be with your family, and I think that's important. And I just want, this episode was for Wade. I had to get this out and put it out there and talk. And you know what? Next week I will be prepared, and I'll be ready to put the podcast back in its normal schedule. We're going to be funny. We're going to be laughing. I'm going to try to do my best at editing it. I want to make it good. I want it to be great. And, I feel like I could have done a little bit better last week with the podcast. The editing, it was hard. It was really hard. I was trying to figure out how to put the timing right, but I don't want to have to do too much, because I don't want to take away from the listeners. I know that some people listen to the podcast, but I also wanted to do some fun visual stuff for the people who watch it on YouTube. But I'm learning, and I'll get better at it, and maybe when the world gets back to normal, I'll be able to get maybe a studio. But in the meantime, it's just going to be from my bedroom. And I appreciate everyone that's supported me, and I'm glad I have this outlet to kind of talk about things, and I've been able to talk with my friends a little bit more, but having this is I don't know. I think most importantly is I hope I change somebody's life. And from the earlier episodes from the 10 years later, when I did the part 1, 2, and 3, I got a lot of messages from younger comedians, and I that made me so happy, because I was like, I used to think about how I would get inspired from other comedians. Maybe they were like famous or bigger, but like just to know that somebody looks up to you makes you feel better as a person sometimes, because I get lost in stand up, and not everybody's comedy is everyone's cup of tea, and stand up there's a comics comic, and for instance like Bill Burr or Chappelle, that's a comics comic, and then there's a lot of other comedians who are famous that comedians maybe not are necessarily a big fan of, but they're very good at what they do. And I never considered myself as a comics comic, but I just was a silly guy, and I wanted to be funny. So the younger comics who reached out, then that really goes a long way and makes me feel good about myself. And I think it's important to recognize that, and that's with anything that happens in your guys' life too. Is recognize the people that you are affecting, even if it's one person, and it could be in anything you do. You don't know. I mean, the amount of influence you have on a child, like me as an uncle, like I want to be a better uncle for my nephews, like things like that. I want to be more involved with now, because it's like I don't know. I think this is all from Wade. This is what he was teaching me the whole time, and unfortunately I didn't recognize it until he was gone. So I I I think that's it. I think that's it for this week. I'm glad I got to talk, and thank you guys for listening, and subscribe on YouTube, leave a review on Apple Podcast, and I have a Patreon too that I started, and I'll do a Patreon episode probably later this week for my Patreon listeners. But all I can say is thank you, and keep loving everybody. Have a good night.